In the time of the first Rebbe of Chabad, there was a tremendous opposition to Chassidut. That's the whole story of Yutet Kislev. When the first Rebbe of Chabad, he got out of prison. He was put there by his religious Jewish enemies. That they really thought that the Hasidic movement was coming to destroy the whole world. And the main reason was, of course, was the Judaism was very closed, was very insular, and the people who learned the Torah, they were, the top of the totem pole. And the people who didn't learn the Torah, they were like at the bottom, at best, of the totem pole, if they were on the totem pole at all. And the Jewish people that were, not religious, they were totally out of the picture. So everything was pretty much organized and set, and everybody felt pretty secure. It came along Chabad, the Baal Shem Tov in general, but Chabad especially, and they said, no, every Jew is holy, and the highest of Jews, they have to learn humility from the simple Jews, and the simple Jews, they have to learn Torah from the upper Jews, and just changing everything around. Anyway, so the enemies of the first Rebbe of Chabad, they even slandered him, and they libeled him, whatever it is, and they had him put into prison, and he got out miraculously. But meanwhile, the hatred did not subside. The hate was great. There was one person here in the story, his name was Rabbi Gavriel, and his wife was Chana Rivka. And they were part of the group that were opposed to the Rebbe. They were very rich, very rich. They came from a very rich family, very well-to-do family, very famous. And they dealt with, I don't know, furs or something like that, whatever they dealt in. Anyway, they had the factories. So in the family where he was, there was like 5 brothers and their father, and they were very successful. So, but he started investigating really what is wrong with this Hasidic movement. Why did people hate them so much? And after his efforts, he discovered that there is no reason. It's just simply hatred because the Hasidim are different. And in fact, they have a more enthusiastic way of serving God and a more open way of choosing God. Not that it's necessarily better or whatever, it's just very different, much more open to loving every Jew and Muslim. But the opposition, the Misnagdim, they couldn't take it. And especially when they saw him doing it, their own relative. So he said, listen, I've investigated and I've discovered that there's nothing wrong with the Hasidim, and they're holy people, and especially their leader, the first Rebbe of Chabad. Okay, so eventually he was ostracized from his family, and they even made efforts to close his business down, to keep customers away, and they made up stories about him and etc. And that he was a cheater and he was a liar and this in his own family, and they kept it. So he didn't know exactly what to do. Okay, what really pained him more than anything else, the fact that he was becoming poor and that he was becoming was bad enough. But the main thing that made him feel bad was that once a year would come along a charity gatherer for the first Rebbe of Chabad. He would collect money to redeem orphans and to give charity to poor people, and also there was settlements in Israel to send money to them. And he every year would give very generously to this. And when he lost all of his money, they came around to him, and he said that he was very sorry that he didn't have any money. He just couldn't. He met them in the street, in fact, and he said, "Listen, don't come to my house because I don't have anything." And however it was, or maybe they came to his house. In any case, he was very heartbroken. He couldn't give anything to charity, and he used to give like massive amounts of money to. He didn't have what to live. He had to leave his house. But his wife said to him, "Listen, true, we lost everything, but I noticed that I still have some jewelry left over. I still have some jewelry left over. It was simple sort of jewelry, but it was, nice. And women like to dress up nice. They want to have jewelry. It's a man is supposed to buy his wife, like before the holidays, jewelry or a present or something. And we also have our candelabra for Shabbat, silver. And I pawned them. I went up and I pawned them. And here we have money. So he said, we can give charity. You can go and call him back. So Rev Gavriel, he ran through the streets looking for the one who was gathering the charity. Meanwhile, his wife was at home, and she took sand or something, whatever is fine sand, and she shined up the coins. She shined up the coins. Let's say every coin was worth, $10 coins, whatever they had. So she shined them up. So let's say it was $10 coins, whatever it is, 20, 10, however much it was. So she made the coins, and she put them in a bag. And she gave them to her husband. Now, her husband didn't know that she shined the coins. She just wanted to shine them up to make them nice and presentable, to show it's not, they weren't giving as much money, but at least in quantity, there was less, but at least quality would be shining. And so he went himself. I think he even went himself. Could it be? Or he gave it to anyway, so he went himself and he gave the coins to the Rebbe, or he gave it to the one who was collecting the charity. In any case, they brought the pouch of money to the Rebbe, to the first Rebbe of Chabad, among the other money that they had gathered. And there were widows and orphans and poor people, waiting for this donations. The Alter Rebbe opened up the pouch, and the money came out, and they were all shining. So he said, "Who gave this?" So they said, Rav Gavriel and his wife, Chana Rivka. So the Alter Rebbe, he thought about it. It could be also that they didn't have children. Could be that was also part of it, that they didn't have children. I think so. In any case, the Alter Rebbe, he said she must have shined up these coins. She must have shined the coins up. And he went into a very deep, contemplation. And he was inspired tremendously by this. And he said that the first thing in the Holy Temple that the priests did is they washed their hands and their feet. They washed their hands from a laver, and this laver was made from the cheapest material. It was made from copper. It was made from copper. And where was the copper taken from? It was taken from the backs of the mirrors of the women in Egypt. It says that the women would, in order to entice their husbands to have relations with them, to give birth. Now, this was in Egyptian captivity, and they were slavery. They were slaves in Egypt, and it was the worst conditions possible to give birth to children, to have a family, because they were totally under Egyptian rule, and they didn't have time yet of this and to raise children, and so their husbands also came home and they were tired and they were from working all day building pyramids or whatever they were, so they would take these mirrors and show their husbands and say, "Look at you, how you look, and look at me, how I look." They would beautify themselves. And this would arouse their husbands to have relations with them. And because of that, there would be children. The children, it says there would be 6 at one time in Egypt that they would give birth to. Millions of children gave birth. Right? They gave birth to millions of children because of these mirrors. So the Alter Rebbe said, look, these mirrors were used for, arousing their husbands, And that was the beginning of the service. That was the only thing that shined, they said, in the Holy Temple, was this laver. And it was the beginning of serving God. It was done with total self-sacrifice, without thinking, and that's what shined. That's the beginning of serving God, is this total self-sacrifice in the most beautiful way possible. He said, go back to him and tell him that he should sell his business, whatever it was. He tried to make a business, whatever, in selling furs or whatever the business was. So close that, and then he should work in gems. Work in gems. If you have gems, you don't have to have a store necessarily. You can go around and work in gems. And that's what he did. He sold his store for pennies, and he borrowed money from somebody, and he started working in gems, and he became rich, and his wife had many children afterwards. And then he was able to give charity. So we see the importance of giving, but also giving in the most generous and acceptable, beautiful way possible. That's called self-sacrifice, totally putting yourself into giving to others. And that's the beginning of the service of the Holy Temple. Have a good day with Mashiach now. See you all, God willing, Friday, tomorrow, and we'll finish, God willing, the Torah Or, talking about how to destroy Amalek. May his name be wiped out forever.